Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down complex topics right from the source. Today, we're diving into some pretty explosive claims about immigration made by former White House advisor Stephen Miller, all pulled from a recent interview. We're going to look at allegations of massive fraud and a really controversial visa reform. The greatest financial fraud scandal in American history. Wow. I mean, that's a heck of a statement, right? Stephen Miller dropped that line during a Fox News interview, and it definitely gets your attention. So what on earth is he talking about? Let's get into it. All right, so the first part of this interview zeroes in on what Miller calls a massive ongoing federal investigation. It's all happening in Minnesota, and it's focused on alleged fraud within the Somali refugee community. And Miller really didn't mince words. He claimed this investigation is uncovering something whose scope and sheer magnitude eclipses anyone's worst nightmare. So the core allegation here is not just fraud, but widespread, systematic fraud happening for a long time. Okay, so when you make a claim that big, you've got to have some numbers to back it up, right? Well, the interview points to this one key statistic to make its case, 90%. But what does that number actually mean? Well, according to Miller, that 90% figure is all about welfare. The claim is that nearly every Somali household with kids is receiving federal aid, painting a picture of a population almost entirely dependent on the system, and he presents this as the bedrock for the alleged fraud. So, you might be wondering, how could something like this even happen? The interview suggests it's not really about individuals acting alone, but about a whole system. A system that Miller gives a very specific name, the Refugee Industrial Complex. Miller argues that President Trump blew the lid off this whole thing. The argument is that there's this self-feeding cycle. It's fueled by billions in government grants that go to nonprofits, which then use that money to resettle refugees. And they lay out this process step by step. It allegedly starts with the government giving massive grants to NGOs. Those NGOs then go find populations to bring over, resettle them in small towns across the U.S., and, this is the key part, enroll them in welfare programs. But here's the kicker. According to this argument, it all comes down to money. The claim is that these nonprofits aren't just doing humanitarian work. They're getting incredibly wealthy in the process, becoming some of the wealthiest nonprofits the world has ever seen. Okay, so after covering all that, the interview totally pivots. We go from the topic of refugees to a completely different but related subject, foreign workers. Specifically, a huge lawsuit filed against the Trump administration's changes to the H-1B visa program. And this is where things get really interesting. You've got this legal battle brewing. On one side, you have 19 states plus the Chamber of Commerce suing over a new, really high fee for H-1B applications. And on the other side, you have the administration's defense, which all hangs on the power of the president. So, what is the administration's defense? Well, it all hinges on one key piece of legislation, the INA, or the Immigration and Nationality Act. Miller argues that this law gives the president the broadest grant of authority possible to set the rules for who can enter the country. From their perspective, that makes their case for these reforms rock solid. So why go through all this trouble? What's the end game for a policy like this? As it's framed in the interview, the goal is crystal clear. It's all about protecting American jobs from being replaced by cheaper foreign labor. And they don't just see this as some minor policy tweak. No, they frame it as a truly historic move, the first time a president has ever taken action like this to stop a very specific industry practice. And that practice goes by a pretty blunt name, body shops. In this context, a body shop is a company whose entire business model is supposedly built on one thing, replacing American workers with lower-cost foreign workers on H-1B visas. And the process they describe for how these body shops operate sounds, well, pretty brutal. American workers get fired, and then they're actually forced to train their own replacements, who are then hired for a lot less money. So you see, this huge application fee isn't just about raising money. It's designed to be a wrench in the gears of this whole business model. The argument is that by making it so expensive to bring in a foreign worker, the policy completely blows up the financial incentive for these body shops to exist at all. And really, all of this, from the refugee debate to the visa reforms, it all boils down to this really tough, fundamental question that every country has to grapple with. How do you balance what's best for your own country's economy with the legal and humanitarian duties you might have? It's a huge issue, and there are definitely no easy answers.